So the next thing I want to test is going to be that when I create a product repository, it needs a DbContext. It's almost the same thing we did with the service, that it needed a repository in order to work. So what I want to start out by doing is just passing in the context to the repository right here in the test we did last lesson. So I'll make a fake context right here, fake context equal, and if you guys remember, we could do a create right here to kind of create a mock DbContext for the main DbContext. There we go. That was what we did earlier in order to create these different context types. And now I'll pass that into my product repository. And it says, I don't know about this, so I need a constructor in order to do this. So let's go to our product repository and let's actually go and create a constructor. So I'll make it public, product repository. There we go. And then we pass in this new context. Let's call it CTX like this. That's for context. So now we have a context we can pass in, and later we'll go and unit test that if it's null and what to do with null values. So now that we can send in a context, let's continue with our test. The first test I want to do now is, what if I pass in a null context? I should actually throw an exception, like we did earlier with the service and the repository. Go and check out the videos for that and see if you can do this yourself. Just pause the video right here. I'll show you how it's done now. You'll just go and do a throws. What I want to expect to throw right here is going to be an invalid data exception in my case. And I want to just create a new context right here, or a new product repository. There we go. And let's pass in null. That should throw an exception. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. Now, in order to do this, again, we need to do a little bit of fat arrow magic. There we go. We're not going to pass any parameters. We do the fat arrow, and then we pass in this method or this constructor that we want to test right here. So let's run the code and see what happens. The unit test fails. That's what we expected. Let's go into our product repository, and all we need to do is, again, if context equals null, then throw new invalid data exception. There we go. So now we pass in that exception. Boom. Happy days. Let's go back to our code and we run the test. Hopefully now that test is executing as expected. It's green. Let's go and make the second test down here just to do this quickly right here. We'll go and make another one just to get a specific message when we're doing this. So I'll save right here when I'm calling this throws. I'm actually going to save a local variable right here. So var exception, that's the exception it's going to throw, equal. And then what I want to do is just do a simple assert equals down here to explain what I expect to get back. There we go. It's going to be an exception saying product repository must have a DbContext. And I'm just going to do a comma right here and send that exception dot message right there. So this is how, again, we did this earlier with the service, so you can just go and check out that code if you want to. And let's just go back to our exception right here inside the product repository and just pass in that message right there. There we go. Zoom out a little bit so you guys can see all the code. So pretty much now when I'm calling this, I should throw an exception if this is actually null. Let's try and rerun the code just to make sure that everything is running as expected. And we just solved a couple of unit tests right away in our system right there. And now we have 3 unit testers guarding us like we did with the service.